you ready?
Good.
Hey guys, what's up? It's been about 4 months. Oh my god. Desperado Dan here, obviously face covering and all. About ready to take a Old Town trolley tour, guys. Never done this before. Done it once, never videoed it, but now I've gotten permission to be able to video on the tour, so we're going to take an Old Town trolley tour. I'm here with my wife as well. She's going to go on the tour with me, and we're going to enjoy a day out on the Boston trolleys and let you guys see some of the greater sights in Boston. So I'll talk to all you guys later.
I got time to kill. We're gonna go. This tour should go pretty quick.
So we got hand wipes, and then as you can see, they're doing the social distancing. So every other seat is blocked off, as you can all see. So with every other seat blocked off, and then we have our seat right here. Our conductor is Quint.
Indeed. Alrighty, friends, my name is Quint, and the guy from Jaws will give us a portion tour. We have a quick safety message here for you. We'll get moving here now.
I'm back. I have some advice for all you travelers out there in the tour. You had better stay seated while we're in motion. Keep your body parts inside at all times. Watch out for those low-hanging branches. They're not friendly. No smoking or alcoholic beverages, or you might be terminated. We want you back.
Well, that was the Governor of Schwarzenegger giving a quick safety message there. Couple things you forgot to mention though. This here is of course a guided tour. Keep conversations through whispers, sound your cell phones. Although with just the three of us aboard, we may talk a little bit. And of course we're practicing social distancing here on the trolley. Make sure your face mask stays completely on your face, covering nose and mouth at all times. So on the left hand side of the vehicle here, you can take a look here at the USS Constitution. She is actually open today. They are now allowing tours to go back on board of her. If you make an appointment later on your phone later on, you can go out there today. Although I do believe that two of you have been out there quite a few times, so that may not be as important for you two as some people. But it'd be nice to see what they're doing out there since they've been starting up with social distancing out there. The one change here, the Constitution Museum that we've been to for free before, that has actually changed during social distancing. It's now $10 for an adult ticket and $5 for a child's ticket to go to the Constitution Museum. As you round the corner here, up ahead of the trolley, just off to the right-hand side, we'll see a monument up ahead of us here in the distance. Looks a little bit like the George Washington Monument down in Washington, D.C., but this is the Bunker Hill Monument for the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now, the Bunker Hill Monument is quite naturally built on top of Breed's Hill. Yeah, that's confusing. Bunker Hill, a little further off to the left-hand side, back another half mile or so. It'd be days before the battle, mid-June 1775, there would be a set of bells atop of Bunker Hill, where the colonists would decide fortifying Breed's Hill to be the better fortification point. The night before the battle, they would move fortifications over. The British will wake up the next morning and decide to go take that hill anyway. They make 3 charges on that hill that day, the British. Once, they go up the hill and they would fail. Twice, they go up the hill and they would fail. On the 3rd charge, they would strap on bayonets. The British would charge the hill, and the British would seize the day. It would be a British victory. It'd be the British who want to call this the Battle of Bunker Hill. To the victor goes the right to naming. So you might be wondering, why would they put a monument on top of a hill we would lose here in the colonies? Fair question. Well, the battle was seen as a bit of a morale victory. Of the 2,000 British soldiers engaged that day, 1,052 of them were perished in fighting. Of the 2,500 colonists engaged that day, we'd only lose 400 or 600. Never before had the mighty British Army got up against such a scrappy, untrained fighting force that had such heavy losses. It was after this battle here, people started to realize we just might have a chance against that mighty British Army. That's loud. Up ahead of the trolley here, we can see this bridge structure ahead of us here. This is the Leonard P. Zachem Bunker Hill Bridge. That's a mouthful. Go Bunker Hill Bridge, you see support columns kind of mirror that Bunker Hill monument. The cables on the bridge look like the rigging on a sailing ship, representing the rich sailing history of the city of Boston. The bridge is named for Leonard P. Zago, a man who started about building bridges back in his time. He knew to build bridges between communities, specifically between the Jewish and Christian communities of the city of Boston. For his efforts to be recognized by none other than Pope John Paul II and given the highest honor possible to a layperson by the Christian Church. Leonard P. Zago would pass away of leukemia before the bridge be named in his honor, but his eldest daughter be one of the first people to drive across the bridge, the crown jewel of the Big Dig project. As we cross the front of the bridge here on the right-hand side, we're also passing Boston's TD Garden, home of the 17-time world champion Boston Celtics, home of the 6-time Stanley Cup champion Boston Bruins. A lot of people ask me, what does TD stand for? Well, that stands for Toronto Dominion. But here in Boston, it can also be so terribly disappointing. Left-hand side of the vehicle, the white building over here with the colorful windows on the side of it. This has once been a site of the Purity Distillation Company. The Purity Distillation Company was making Yankee rum. In order to make rum, you need molasses. Well, they had a tank of molasses. It stood 50 feet tall, 292 feet around, kept it a nice balmy 800 degrees. That tank was in very poor condition. That tank would do something rather funny. In January of 1919, it would burst open. 2.3 million gallons of 800-degree molasses aboard the streets of Boston down below. 21 people would die, horses would be killed, carriages were destroyed. The Boston Elevated Railway, which ran through here, would be literally knocked over. Houses here in the North End still smell like molasses, it is said, as hot days here in the city of Boston. This event is remembered here in the city of Boston as the Boston Massacre. Huzzah! Too soon, 100 years or so. Those of you are coming into our stop number 4, stop 4, down the road ahead of us here, go down the Masti straight on to the right. You can make your way over to the Science Museum here in Boston. That is capable for you to go to. They have the Pixar exhibit going on there. Back might as go back to the north end of Boston. Star attraction here at OR, the TD Garden, and of course Boston's Old North Station. Anyone here ever stopped for? Not likely. Well, I have to offer it up. Yeah, we'll go straight down the road. To keep leapfrogging the statue of Bobby Orr that's usually on the right-hand side here, he's been out in front of the garden here recently, but he's also appeared over here the last couple of days. Bobby Orr in 1970 scored the game-winning goal against the St. Louis Blues with the 1970 championship of Lord Stanley's Cup. Now, when he scored that goal, he leapt in the air for joy afterwards. Well, if you look on the right-hand side, no, not quite yet. When we pass in front of the garden here in just a moment, you look at the right-hand side, you'll see the statue of Bobby Orr out in front of the garden here. The old garden on the side of the parking garage on the right-hand side here, by the way, was torn down back in 1995. To make way for the TD Garden. The original garden was opened up back in 1928 as Boston's Madison Square Garden. Now we're coming into what used to be the West End of Boston. The West End of Boston used to be home to a tight-knit community, mostly of Eastern Europeans living here. The city of Boston was looking to a rebuilding project here. They would set their eyes on the West End. They would choose them to pick up the trash here for a period of around 3 weeks. They would send out the local newspaper, the Boston Globe. They would declare this part of the city a slum. They would call it. They would make all the houses by eminent domain. But the city of Boston said, folks, but do not fret, do not worry. We're going to rebuild the West End, they said. We're going to build you all affordable housing. You're going to be able to move back on in. Yeah, okay, sure. So really what they want to build is Federal Reserve building, like Thomas P. O'Neill building here on the right-hand side of the trolley, and million-dollar high-rise buildings here. The city of Boston lied, go figure. Now there is a bright shining spot to all this. We're going to be turning left down Stanford Street here in just a second. When we turn left, we're going to look to the right here real quick. There's a building down the way here with an iPhone billboard. That is the last house of the West End. The building was actually very close to the Boston Elevated Railway, which ran through here at that time. And so tearing down that building would interfere with the operation of the railroad. It was decided to keep that building up at that time period. So at that point in time, 60 tenements here in the old West End were saved due to that. There is an active museum here, talking a little about that. Up ahead of the trolley on the right here, kind of, is this brick building. The old West Bend Museum is the red door down the right-hand side here. Famous resident of this end of town was Leonard Nimoy, Spock. Leonard Nimoy was a Bostonian, ladies and gentlemen. He was about 8 years old when that West End takeover happened. He was once quoted as saying, "The West End never leaves you." He used to run around a sailboat that was called the West End. I've just always liked considering that here, Commander Spock talking in a Boston accent. Commander Kirk, we got a wicked problem here, sir. Ain't gonna happen. I just don't want to know what the traffic patterns would have been like if Leonard Logan. Anyway, here, so we'll see that building down the right-hand side here. Now, one of the couple odd things about it, of course, you'll see that when they left the building there, they left the building smack dab in the middle of the road. The other issue is, apparently this building has been slated to be torn down several times now since. Apparently they are talking about tearing it down here later on this year, but I haven't seen any of the permits being pulled yet on that. You'll see that as we're starting to take our left-hand turn here in just a moment. Right about... It's always a longer way than you think it's going to be.
Of course.
There it is. But anyway, as we take the turn here, keep your eyes on the right-hand side of the trolley anyway, because as we complete our turn after looking at that building, we'll see a building that will make you want to hurl. This is the Hurley State Services building coming up on the right-hand side here. This is a brutalist-style building built back in 1970. When originally constructed, city and planners came out here and decided to put this corduroy like design of the building, taking jackhammers right to the side of the building to put that design on there. Must have been an expensive process. The company building this building go bankrupt, had to finish the building early. There are stairwells going up to the top of the building to go up into nowhere. As you cross the crosswalk just up ahead of us here, on the right-hand side, you'll see hallways going to nothing. Hallways to nothing. Now, you might possibly recognize this building from the movie The Departed, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. In that film, that building would stand in for the city police building here in the city of Boston. And that is not the city police building here, my friends. You cannot make this up. A building with hallways going up into nothing and stairwells going to nowhere holds the mental health services for the state of Massachusetts. Oh well.
Answers a lot of questions.
Just up ahead of the trolley here, looking at the Government Center parking garage. This was also built in 1970, but when originally constructed, the inspectors that came out here deemed this building to be unsafe and unsound. They said the support columns over this building would never hold the weight of the building plus all the cars on the inside, effectively condemning it before it could even be opened. Parking here in Boston is an adventure on the best days. You find it's free parking behind some boards over there. What are you going to do? You're going to tear down those boards. You're going to start parking there anyway. The mayor found out. Mayor was furious. He sent a second set of inspectors. Second set of inspectors found this building to be so safe, so sound. They built 2 levels of offices above the original parking garage. So in just a moment, we're going to drive underneath this incredibly safe parking garage that they're in process of tearing down as we speak. We all brought our hard hats on today, right?
No.
Nobody here was for OSHA, correct?
Nope.
Good answer, good answer. I don't want to see that first set of inspectors expecting some sort of a kickback from the city. That kickback would not happen. Now, if you come back down here later on tonight, I may do this later on this evening, my two friends. There's a light show that goes on underneath here, apparently from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning, with projections going on the ceiling. I kind of want to take a look at that. As we make our way just beyond this building, the left-hand side of the trolley here, just as we make our way past Boston Poplar Market here, we take a look at the Blackstone Block. Blackstone Block is the oldest commercial block here in the city of Boston. We can see the Bell Hand Tavern off the left-hand side here, started by town crier Jimmy Wilson back in 1795. Go from telling gossip the streets of Boston, telling gossip the safety of the bar. Union Oyster House is also here, the sign's back of our vantage point though. John F. Kennedy used to frequent that bar, or the restaurant rather. He would frequent booth number 18. You can still request his booth to this day. Just up ahead of the trolley on the left-hand side here, the brick structure here is Faneuil Hall. Daniel Hall, often referred to as the Cradle of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty used to meet here in the days before the American Revolution. This is where your Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Paul Revere would all meet. They would meet on the second and third floor of that building. There's an area that you're able to still rent out for the Park Service if you want to. The only thing you can't have there is weddings. Weddings are actually not considered a public forum. Now, at the very top of the building, we stop rolling forward here, you'll see a weather vane on top of that brick building. That weather vane is in the shape of a grasshopper. That grasshopper used as a spy jet here during the War of 1812. During the War of 1812, people come in here to the docks of Boston to be asked on the way in, where does the grasshopper fly? And that person was from Boston, at least from around the state of Massachusetts, look at top of that building, go, oh look, a grasshopper over there. And that person, however, was from Great Britain, who we were warned at that time. That person might be more tempted to go, that's a grasshopper. Grasshoppers aren't called grasshoppers over in Britain traditionally. They call them crickets over there. That person will be probably thrown back into Boston Harbor. They are clearly a spy. As we roll way forward here, up ahead of the trolley on the right-hand side, we'll see another brick structure here. This one a little smaller though. This is the Old State House. From down view of the Old State House on July 18th, 1776. They read the Declaration of Independence here to crowds of people here in the city of Boston for the first time. You might wonder why not July 4th, 1776. That's an easy answer. The fax machine was out that day, and they weren't able to get the messages on through. It would unfortunately take a horse full 2 weeks to get up here with the Declaration of Independence. But inside this building here, ladies and gentlemen, you have the Old State House Museum and the Old South Meeting House. Both of these are available to look at today. They're not including your tickets right now, but you do get the ability to experience both of these things here for just $15. Go inside the Old State House, and we'll talk about that. Off to our right, you can make your way over to Daniel Hall, Quincy Market. Thank you. Watch your step. Use the handrails. Watch this one step behind me here. All right. Just a quick safety message here for you, friends. So, folks, my name is Quint. I'm like the guy from John's that will give you this portion of the tour. Please remain seated while the vehicle is in motion. No smoking. No consumption of alcohol. I am sorry. Keep conversations to a whisper. Silence your cell phones. We have practically social distancing here on the trolley. Just make sure you keep those face masks completely on your face at all times when aboard the vehicle. Well, that's a lot of noise. You might wonder what that was all about. That was an actual recording in front of this building here on the left-hand side on March 5th, 1770 in front of the Old State House. A group of 200 colonists had been 9 British soldiers in front of this building. Well, some other events going on here in Boston. They were upset about the Quartering Act. There were several British soldiers taking their jobs. They're mad. The British soldiers, meanwhile, during all this, couldn't do a darn thing about it. There was no one here to read that crowd the Riot Act. But during all this chaos, somebody had the intelligent idea of bringing church bells here in the city of Boston. Oh, not you. There we go. Sorry about that. Now, church bell rung here today, not Sunday. This is on a Sunday. Often it was a fire here in the city of Boston. Now you have a large crowd of people going around yelling, fire, fire, fire. Another group of people throwing rocks, snowballs, and oyster shells at these British soldiers. The British soldiers got themselves a little confused. They thought they got the order to fire. They fired. 5 people lay dead here in the street after the volley. This is remembered here as the Boston Massacre. Right here inside the trolley, ladies and gentlemen, this is City Hall Plaza. The large upside-down perimeter building on the right-hand side there is Boston City Hall. Guerrilla-style structure built back in 1969 when many wars would open up back then. But back in 2008, it would win my favorite award, of course. The ugliest building in all the world, and I think it deserves it every time we look at it. This is built on top of what used to be here in Boston, Scully Square. Scully Square was kind of a quasi-red light district, shopping district, theater district here in the city of Boston. I didn't really know what it wanted to be. Would be Comet Costello once performed a skit. Who's on first, what's on second? The theater stood here. The original recording of that, they're wearing Boston Red Sox uniforms. Alexander Graham Bell performed the first telephone call in the world on the side of the building up ahead of us here on the right-hand side. And considering this building is nowadays sponsored by Verizon, that phone call could have only ever been Can you hear me now? In all honesty, there was a phone call to a helper. There's a man with a name of Watson. The phone call go a little bit more along the lines of, Watson, get in here. He was excited about something, I suppose. Now, Scully Square was done away with, much like the west end of Boston was. What was the last piece left of Scully Square? As we start rolling forward here, up ahead of the trolley, left-hand side, you'll see a Dunkin' Donuts. It's not the Dunkin' Donuts. Trust me, there's plenty of them. They're safe. Next to Dunkin' Donuts will be the Red Hat Bar. Go to the Red Hat Bar at 5 o'clock most afternoons. You get yourself half-off wings at the bar. Now, the bar is situated here on Bowden Street. Look left all the way up the hills. You cross over Bowden Street. You'll see a resident up hill, some flags in front of it. That's 122 Bowden Street up there. Famous resident of the city of Boston once lived there. Let's see if you recognize his voice.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Yeah, exactly, sir. John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was living at 122 Bowden Street when he was elected to the 11th Congressional District here for the state of Massachusetts. Now, I say he lived there. That's a little bit of a misnomer. That was really his mailing address. He, of course, lived down in Martha's Vineyard here in the state of Massachusetts, but he needed a mailing address here in Boston to be elected from here. That was his grandfather's old apartment, and he would use that, as well as his two brothers, Robert and Edward Kennedys, to be elected here. Later on, though, when he would become president of the United States, he had to vote for himself over here. On the head of the trolley, just off the right-hand side, the brick structure that you're looking at here is Old West Church. Old West Church will be holding in the Boston City Public Library during that 1960 election. John F. Kennedy and his wife Jack have used a polling station inside that building. They have a photo walk in front of the church afterwards. But the building has a far older history than that, to be sure. This was originally opened up as a wooden structure back in 1737. By 1770, British troops started being housed inside there. The city of Boston at that time would have a population of about 15,000 individuals. They bring as many as 9,000 British soldiers here to Boston in order to control that population. By 1775, however, the British had burned down Old West Church, however. They're convinced that colonists were using it as a signaling point, much like Old North Church in the North End. There's nothing, though, to support that was actually ever true. On the head of the trolley, as we come up on Blossom Street here, we're coming up on the campuses for Mass General Hospital, or MGH. Mass General Hospital, one of the top hospitals in the world, bring forth best today. This is also the top employer here in Boston. They have over 20,000 individuals working on site here. They've had a lot of firsts here throughout the years. The first successful appendectomy was performed on site here. The first successful limb reattachment was done for a young man who had been playing on the MTA tracks, the past name for the MBTA. The gentleman who had that happen to him would actually get back 80% usage of his arms. However, the thing I think we should be most thankful for is the first successful surgery using ether was done on site here at Mass General Hospital. Now, the performing surgeon was a man by the name of John Warren. John Warren was a great-grandson of one Joseph Warren. His grandfather would pass away during the last and final charge by the British on the Battle of Bunker Hill. John Warren, 72 years old, was working on a gentleman who had a tumor on his jaw. And when he was done performing that surgery, the gentleman woke up exclaiming he had felt no pain. He did that in the building you just might see if you look down North Anderson Street and cross over the road here. Large gray building down the end of the road with a dome on top of it. That building nowadays is called the Ether Dome. Now, they had to do a little animal testing to develop the first surgery using ether, but I think we got something pretty good out of it. One of those animals was a rabbit. That rabbit would go on to become the Ether Bunny. As you round the corner here, ladies and gentlemen, we got a quick glimpse here of the Charles Street Jailhouse appearing on the right-hand side. Charles Street Jailhouse, if you looked at it from on top, it has a cross-shaped design. This cross-shaped design was seen as a humane way to keep inmates, but all the inmates inside here got sunlight during the day here. The resident who would actually stay here for a little bit of time was one Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was famed to get one of the first DUIs in City of Boston history. While staying here, he exclaimed the place should have been a hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, prophecy confirmed, that is now a hotel. is the Liberty Hotel. Liberty Hotel loves making fun of itself. They have a bar downstairs they call the Clink. A restaurant on the second floor is called the Alibi. Red wine there would be guilty wine. White wine is innocent. They have a drink they serve there called Judgment. When you get your Judgment drink, Judgment is served. Going to be crossing over the Charles River here. Charles River has a famous song written about it. We'll play a snippet of that for you now. We'll talk about it here.
I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you about my town. I'm going to tell you a big bad story, baby. I'm going to tell you about my town.
Get down by the river. Down by the river, the Charles.
That's
What's happening, baby? But I love that dirty water. Oh, Boston, you're my home. Now that is Dirty Water by the Standells. The Standells are not a Boston-based band. Don't even hail from New England. They come from California, of all places. Their music producer came here to Boston on a visit, but while here he get mugged in broad daylight along the Charles River. That song was composed as a spite song to make fun of us Bostonians. Of course, a little thick-skinned here in Boston, we didn't quite get the joke. We now play that song every time the Red Sox go on to win a game at Boston's Fenway Park. Now we find ourselves here in the city of Cambridge and more formally on the campuses here for MIT. Millionaires in training to some people, more importantly known as the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, one of the foremost colleges of technology in the world. Not a school you get into just because your parents or your grandparents made a large endowment. You gotta get the grades to go here. They've had a lot of work here recently building robots that can open doors for other robots. But I more fondly remember them for their time working with NASA. Speaking of NASA, up ahead of the trolley, just on the right-hand side here, you see that brown building ahead of us with the medallion at the top of it? Kind of looks like a propeller. That is the John Volpe National Transportation Center. That was as designated by Richard Nixon. However, this complex underneath the reign of John F. Kennedy was supposed to be the headquarters of NASA based here in the city of Cambridge. John F. Kennedy would not live to see this dream come to fruition, assassinated in 1963. His successor, Lyndon Baines Johnson, would move the headquarters of NASA down to Houston, Texas, on land his wife may have owned down there. So it's unfortunate for us here, really. Instead of those calls from NASA going, "Hey, Houston, we got a problem," we almost wanted with, Cambridge, we got a wicked problem up here, kid. Get us back down to Harvard Yard. But that being said, friends, that would be far from the end of MIT's involvement with NASA, that's for sure, certain. My wife's grandfather, for example, was a graduate here from MIT. He would actually help while running the space program while working for Charles Draper Laboratories. If you look straight down the road ahead of us, you might see a building that's a sky bridge across the road. That's Charles Draper Laboratories. He and some of the students who created the program that was later used on the LEM on the lunar module for triangulate how far above the moon you were during the moon landing. Now, if you ever listen to a longer version of that moon landing, well, halfway through that moon landing cycle, they started getting master alarms up there. That computer was very weak. Your cell phone is a far sharper computer source than anything aboard a Saturn V rocket. It couldn't figure out how far it was above the moon. They had to do a little guesswork to get the rest of the way down, but just about 50 years ago now, friends, we celebrated the landing here on the moon. Now, there's another famous college in town here I haven't mentioned here in Cambridge. You might be familiar with a college simply called the College when originally founded. Harvard University will now be renamed after John Harvard, a resident of the city of Charlestown, until after he passed away, leaving half of his worldly possessions over to the college. Harvard University you want to go to, I suppose, if you're looking to become president of the United States. Many of our presidents have all been attendees of Harvard, including most recently President Obama. His eldest daughter is attending there now. Unfortunately, Harvard University is about, mile, I should say, off in the right-hand direction here. Now, it's a beautiful day today. You can go walking off that distance, but I have a better suggestion for you. We're going to pull into our stop 6 just off our left-hand side here, catch a red line train, go outbound 2 stops to Harvard Square, and you'll come in to go to the beautiful Mount Auburn Cemetery and take a look at the grounds for Harvard University. The MIT campus store just up ahead of us here between the gap between buildings on the right-hand side here. And of course, you have the option of all the shops here over in the MIT Kendall Square and Technology Square areas here in Boston. You can let me through, All right. You can see that I made the vehicle to a complete stop at the stop. I open the doors. If you're disembarking here, watch your step, use the handrail, and yourself a fantastic day. Anybody here in the hall? No? All right.
My brother went to MIT.
Dispatch, stop number 6. We are 18 seats, 18 seats. Let this car go by. As we roll forward here, up ahead of the trolley, just on the left-hand side here, we'll take a look at the campuses of Google here on Technology Square. Right before the building that was taken down here, you see a little sign on the left-hand side right here. There it is. Google actually owned this building that's being constructed here left-hand side. They tore down the original building that was here. As I've come to understand from a recent article I was reading, they're building the building just to be a little bit better to their own design specifications. I've been hoping some of those bright minds over at MIT might be telling us the next new invention let's get their hands on. Maybe that banner's at the left-hand side of the trolley over here at Chipotle right now having a burrito, you never know. But it's not why this area of the nickname of Technology Square. Companies that have been here for far longer than that are responsible for that, such as Whittier Labs, Genzyme. Genzyme's a pharmaceutical for the city of Cambridge. I used to do security for them back in the day. And of course, I mentioned earlier that Charles Draper Laboratories. Going to be heading back up over the Longfellow Bridge here. We're going to get some fantastic views of the city of Boston way back over the bridge. So if you would like, take out your cameras, look on to the right-hand side of the trolley, and I'll tell you a little bit of some things you're going to see as we make our way over the bridge. The one thing that might be a little bit of a bother during all this, though, on the left-hand side of the vehicle, we'll see the MBTA red line trains on the left-hand side here. Boston, by the way, just got ranked as having the second best subway system in the United States. Although out of a possible 31 contenders, Boston is dead last in safety. Who wants to go gambling? No. All right. As we roll forward here, up ahead of the trolley on the right-hand side, we will start to see the gold dome of the new State House. New State House at our stop number 14. We should be there roughly about 40 minutes. Off the right, you see that large blue tower over there. That is the John Hancock Tower. Tallest building here in the city of Boston, 60 stories tall. When we get to our stop 12, interesting story to tell of the Hancock Tower over there. Further back behind us, more silver-colored tower, more square in shape with a needle on top of it. That's the Prudential Tower, second tallest building here in the city. Stops 9, 10, and 11 will all circle through. Down in front of the trolley, this here is the Esplanade. The Esplanade is a park system here in the city of Boston. Known as the Memorial Hat Show, round on their right-hand side, brown in color. The Boston Bombs play the 1812 Overture there during the fireworks show every 4th of July. Now, friends, we are going to be coming into our stop 7, but if you're really interested in trying out that bar Alibi and Clink I talked about earlier, attached to the Liberty Hotel, stop number 7 is going to be the closest stop to these events. Now, the Beacon Hill District we're coming on to here is protected by an act called the Federal Preservation Act. The Federal Preservation Act states the exterior of the buildings here are not allowed to be adjusted. What this means for you, if you bought one of the buildings, go ahead, buy the building, that's fine. Got the interior, doesn't matter what you do to the inside. Change anything on the exterior of the building, be it color, be it design, anything like that. and that would be a direct break of the Preservation Act. If I have any fans of the show Cheers, by the way, just up ahead of the trolley right on the inside, we can see the American flag from the post office. The character Cliff from the show Cheers shown working from this particular post office. I love the gas lanterns lit up and down the road here. These gas lanterns have been continuously lit here since 1912. Was once the city of Boston with a switch over electric lighting here on Charles Street, but the citizens here love these gas lanterns so. They would commission the city of Boston to keep them. They'd be allowed to keep them, but they would in turn fire the lamplighters here as a cost-saving measure. And so very rarely do the lanterns ever go out. Now we are coming up on our stop number 7. You could go to the 35 antique shops here at Charles Street. You could also make your way back behind us to go to the Charles Street jailhouse to take a look at the Liberty Hotel. But we're also nearby one of the most photographed, one of the most beautiful streets in all the United States. We're right nearby Acorn Street. Acorn Street is a beautiful cobblestone road, private way, just up to the left of Mount Vernon Street up ahead of us here. If you want to go take a look at that, make a left down Mount Vernon, take a right onto Cedar Street, and you're right ahead to Acorn Street, one of those beautiful streets here in Boston. Any takers here for stop 7? No? All right. Left-hand side of the vehicle here. I'm going to wait for this car to go by. We are leaving the Charles Street Meeting House. Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass used to all meet inside of that building, talking about the abolition of slavery here in the States. The Beacon Hill District here was once a major part of the Underground Railroad. Now, the Underground Railroad, of course, not a railroad in the traditional sense, but rather an escape route used by slaves making their way from down south on the way up to Canada. A lot of these slaves actually wound up staying here inside the Beacon Hill District, leading to at one time the Beacon Hill District having the largest population of free blacks in the United States. There's a trail that wraps through here called the Black Heritage Trail. Black Heritage Trail starts over by our stop number 14 at the Robert Gould Shaw Memorial traditionally, although the Robert Gould Shaw Memorial is currently underneath heavy reconstruction at the moment. If you've ever seen the movie Glory about the Massachusetts 54th, the first all-African-American regiment, you're actually pretty familiar with the story of that. But, my friends, we're going to be coming up here in just a second onto our stop number 8. Now, you could go up ahead of the trolley just on the left-hand side. This is the Boston Common. When the British were staying here in Boston, they would occupy the Common here heavily. Up ahead of us on the right-hand side is the beautiful Boston Public Garden. The famous make-way-for duckling statues are just up ahead of us through the entrance point here. But, admittedly, most people coming in here to stop number 8 are degenerates like myself. They're coming here for a certain bar, the Bullet-Finch Pub. Bullet-Finch Pub, of course, better classically representing basis of the show. Cheers. Coming up next, friends. Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Would you like to get away? Would I? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Norm, 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 Norm. And they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see troubles all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. Alright, the white awning of the Hampshire House just up ahead of us here on the right-hand side. But please remain seated until I bring the vehicle to a complete stop and I open the doors. If you're disembarking here, watch your step, use the handrails, and the ever-important question, who's buying? No? Alright. I guess I gotta drive. Not open quite yet. It's gonna open actually in about 10 minutes if anyone was interested. No takers? Fair enough. See anybody about there either. So this here is the Bullet-Finch Pub, classic Hollywood story. Producers from NBC will want to make a sitcom about an average American bar, average American city. They go to many different bars, many different cities before deciding there at the Bullfinch Pub. The one thing to remember about that is, though, the original bar, the downstairs bar, looks nothing like the soundstage they want to using in Hollywood. People who come here want to go eat and drink at the bar where everybody knows your name and would be sadly disappointed. The downstairs bar looking nothing like that soundstage used in Hollywood. People will get drunk mad about this problem. So the owner of the Bullfinch Pub, a wealthy individual, going to build 2 replica bars here in the city of Boston. One just above the original bar there at Bullfinch Pub. The other one is downstairs at our stop 1, stop 5 over at Quincy Market. Tonight you'll eat and drink at the bar where everybody knows your name. You can go into their cash gift shop. You can buy yourself a can of Norm's Nuts. You can buy yourself a $15 t-shirt for $25 at their gift shop. You'll go in there and you'll see that's perfectly true. Now we're coming into the back bay of Boston. If we go way back here for a moment, we talk about Paul Revere and his famous midnight ride. We talk about 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. Friends, welcome to the sea route of the 1700s. This here was literally the bay in the back of Boston. In fact, when we talk about Paul Revere and his famous midnight ride, maybe from the waters here the British would set their longboats onto, make their way off to our right over to Cambridge at Leechmere Point to start their marches to the towns of Lexington and Concord. Now truly this is our changing gear around the year 1818. The city of Boston decided to put a mill dam directly underneath the road we're traveling on now. Building that mill dam back behind us, going to the Common, going all the way forward to Kenmore Square. This would become...
So just got back from the tour. Again, want to apologize. My battery cut out during the tour. What I will do is I will pick up where my battery cut out in the tour. So getting right into the tour. Great tour, guys. Historically accurate, with some very funny puns and some great music. Our tour guide, Captain Quint, was hilarious. He was off the hook. Had a great time. So some of you guys may be wondering, well, how much is this? It is $45. But if you sign up for the Hometown Pass, which is for Boston residents only, you only have to have one person pay, and then the other person will ride for free. It's a great incentive, guys. I highly recommend it. If people want to know about it, more about it, I will link a description to it in the comments below. So from now, you guys all have a wicked good day, and I will see all you guys later.